Welcome into another episode of the Bogle and Smog Fantasy Cast. We are here to recap week 2, to talk a little trash, give some props, let people know what went right and what went wrong in week 2 of fantasy football. Welcome in, guys. So happy to have you with me. I got Phil, I got Cole, the couch, and the Smog. And you know what? I lost this week, but it was a great week of football. There were some wild games, absolutely crazy finishes, and that's what it's all about. Edge of our seat all weekend long, and it was a blast. Guys, we're going to jump right into it. Let's get into this week 3 recap. What jumped out to you guys this week, and just what was your overall mood all throughout this weekend?
For week 2, I hated my team. That's that's what jumped out to me. Like whenever you lose and the guy doesn't put up 100, it feels really bad. So, but like Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews stack really worked out for Rasky.
Yes, that is a scary stack that when it hits.
Yeah.
How about you, Cole? Where was your mood at all weekend long?
I mean, I was just not sure how the stats could go any higher on some of these wide receivers. I thought, don't they throw the ball to running backs or tight ends or anything all weekend long? It ended up being such a bad week in general. If you just look down the board on all your running backs, tight ends, I mean, there wasn't. I think tight end number 2 might have been 17 points, and it was definitely boomer bust in a lot of those players, and mostly busts. But an exciting week of football, and I definitely picked up a first win in a long time. It felt nice. So
very nice.
Yeah, went ahead and got that W. And speaking of some wins and losses, let's get into it. Phil, let's jump into the first matchup. What do you got for us from this past weekend?
Well, the first matchup right here is me versus Are You Ready for Some Football? This was a terrible matchup. All of my receivers did nothing, but like, even Jefferson and Chase didn't do much, but it's hard to lose when the other team only puts up 80 points. So definitely bad for both sides, pretty much. But I'm feeling good about this week. So
Hey, sometimes it's just a defensive struggle between the two. You guys play great
it really
defense.
Is. Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got Kicking It with Kareem came up against the fantasy football team, and this matchup was a barn burner, you guys. I mean, 173 to 150. You should never, ever lose with 150 points. Absolutely ridiculous. But
yep.
like you mentioned, that absolutely ridiculous Miami-Baltimore game played out perfectly for Jordan. He gets that Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews stack and is able to just put up so many points. And it wasn't just that. Like, everyone hit. His lowest scoring player, I think, is 8 points. Like, every single one of these players hit, played well, and did absolutely fantastic. And that's how he put up this incredible numbers. But, I mean, it's rough for Ben when you have 150, a 30-point performance from Chubb, 38 from Diggs, and still come away with an L. It hurts, but it just gives you a little preview of what this team can do. It can put up points, and, hey, those points do pay off. I believe Phil, you squeaked into the playoffs last year off a 7-point difference? Might not happen this year with Ben putting up points like this.
Absolutely. All right, Cole, can you talk about this one for us?
Well, sure. I had first-hand perspective as Noel Regrets was playing Nectar of the Gods, and I could say I benefited from a Josh Allen performance again. That seems to be kind of a trend, and Amon St. Brown breaking out again. I think we're going to keep seeing him be a wide receiver one. I don't see him dialing down in targets. Goff is doing, I think, better than most people expected early into the year here. And we're seeing a little bit of some issues with injuries kind of affecting all the offenses on Tyler's teams. Evans going out early with a suspension this week didn't help anybody. MVS not really having a great game for Kansas City, but that's just, back to what Phil was saying. There's not a real wide receiver one in Kansas City. It's just the tight end there. And then everybody else just gets to clean up whatever's left. But no, yeah, and Paris Campbell coming out with a 0. I think there's some upside in his year still, so I'm not punting on him yet. But definitely too many red numbers for Spear this week. So I came out with the win.
Yeah, unfortunately, that will happen. This next one, who do you think you are? I am. Versus Rando Guy Out East, Tanner. Pretty close, actually. So you didn't see the Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley stack like last week or the week prior. So that is unfortunate. If they played half of what they did week 1, then you would see Tanner coming out with a win here. But, Michael Thomas looks like the Michael Thomas of old. Mike Williams is boom or bust, and this time he he boomed. So that really helped him out. And it was even 18 points of Buffalo defense, and you come away with a loss is heartbreaking. But I feel like Russell Wilson will get better. Hopefully, who knows? But there's better points on this side to come on both sides. They should be scoring a little bit more than what they did. But Joe comes out with a win. He's 1-1, or they're both 1-1, and yeah, pretty good.
Pretty good. Unlike this next matchup here. Another little pain for me. A little flashback to the championship game of last year. Pretty similar scoring, I think, actually, with me going up, Sir Dabos taking on the natural-born Kylers, losing 130 to 152, and oh man, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. I was looking at one point, those three wide receivers had what is that? Is that 100 points between three players?
Did they finish 1, 2, 3 for the week?
And
maybe
it was devastating because I was sitting through this whole game, Jalen Waddle all game was having an okay game. I think going into the fourth quarter, he had 18 points. And I was like, that's good, but I can live with that. Tyreek had 8 points maybe going into the fourth quarter. And then just devastation. I was absolutely ruined, just destroyed. Yeah. But that's what happens. There really wasn't much more I could have done. Amari Cooper had a great game. I could have had him in maybe over somebody else. But it's just the way the cookie crumbled this week. And, 130 points, still a good performance on my side. And I'm going to get him next time. Ethan, I swear I will beat you.
Yeah, Ethan had wide receiver 2, 3, and 4 in our league for rankings. Or 2, 3, and 5, I apologize. So, if you lose that matchup, man, your running backs and everybody else must have just had a bye week.
Incredible.
Yeah. It was a good performance. We had some very high scores this week, between 170, 150, a couple 150s, and a 130. Those are all pretty high scoring games. And what's ridiculous is 2 of those teams lost this week. So,
Right. Just incredible.
So a wild week in fantasy football for us, but nothing's as wild as our next little segment here. And this is Bogle's biggest bungle. And this is the biggest mistake you made all weekend long. Who's the biggest fool out there who could have started someone and won for the week? And it goes to Ben this week, sitting Tua Tagovailoa. And guess what? He was the quarterback 2, I believe, on the week, put up over 40 points. And had you started him in that high-scoring affair, you would have come out with over 172 points, getting the W over Jordan. But you didn't. You started Joe Burrow, and that did not play out for you. And that was Bogle's biggest bungle.
What a bungle, man. Who would have thought Tua would come out with 6 touchdowns?
Absolutely ridiculous.
I didn't think he had it in him, but
I mean, you got to be impressed.
Does he again? I don't know.
I don't see that coming for a few more weeks. Hopefully not. That was crazy. But a fun game to watch, it was.
It really was. And after that, let's get into the moves that people made this week to try to get better, try to make their team a little bit stronger moving forward. We were talking before the show, guys. This week was kind of sad, a little bit of a drought of a week for exciting moves that people could make out on the waiver wire. No huge performers out there that people wanted to grab, no little stashes. We've got a few defenses, Tampa Bay getting picked up, but a couple of questionable decisions, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Michael went and grabbed Benjamin for $11, which is fine. It definitely has some opportunity with James Conner going down, having that ankle injury, questionable how much he'll be involved. But dropping Chuba Hubbard when Dante Foreman has not looked great as the possible 2 or 3 there. Chuba's been with the team longer. Looks like if McCaffrey goes down, it probably would be Chuba's backfield. And though he wasn't awesome last year in that role, he could still be a flex for sure. And we just got the report that Christian McCaffrey's feeling a little stiff. He's not feeling great.
Right. He came out, he has like a little ankle injury. It might be nothing, but whenever Christian McCaffrey comes up with a questionable or any, you have to hold your breath. I mean, that guy goes down every year, it seems. So,
yeah, and so we'll see. We'll see if Chuba gets scooped up, and if he does, what people are bidding on him. Another one I thought was kind of interesting, Van Jefferson making his way back onto Ethan's team. Van, in my eyes, when he comes back, I am not an Allen Robinson believer. I know he had an okay week this week, but I think Van Jefferson is going to be like, there's no 1A, 1B here on this team. It's Cooper Kupp, and then there's a 2A, 2B, and it's going to be Van Jefferson and Allen Robinson splitting. So you could get hit and miss value if your team gets really hurt. Van Jefferson is a flyer you can throw in and get some production. So I actually like that pickup quite a bit. Other than that, Jimmy G getting scooped back up. He's starting again. Everything kind of played out for him. And Ethan scooping up Dontrell Hilliard recently, just right off free agency. Maybe he's going to be the back if Henry ever goes down. So that's kind of the main moves of the week. Like we said, nothing overly exciting happening to this point.
Right.
Let's get some trades, though, huh? Get some trades happening. Guys?
I have one sitting here in my trade inbox that I just saw, like, logging in right now. So I don't want to look. I looked at it, but I don't want to look at it into it too much because that'll consume me then.
I get it, but I like that, guys. Send trades my way. The market, the store. I'm always open. That's fine. But that wraps up our transactions of the week, and let's get into a segment that actually was very impressive last week, Cole. The fades and feels hitting pretty good. How you feeling? Yeah. Round of applause.
I appreciate that, Bob.
How you feeling about that?
I'm definitely not fading my performance from last week.
No,
nice. Yeah, so for fades and feels for everybody that didn't watch the last video, which I don't believe we have too many views, so most of you haven't watched the last video, and get out there and watch this. No,
that's right.
The fades and feels segment is where I'm going to discuss 8 players for the week, players that underperform or fade, and players that overproduce or feel. I'm going to pick 2 players from each position, and then I'm going to discuss whether they're going to fade or feel compared against expert rankings for that week. So it's a weekly basis thing. And last week, I went 6 out of 8 picks correct. So take it as that is a good first week, maybe a little bit of luck, but let's try another week of this if you guys are ready for some information dump. Here we go.
I'm ready.
Here we go. QB. So this week, I'm fading Kyler Murray. And the problem with Kyler Murray this week is just Arizona's not healthy. They're still missing DeAndre Hopkins. Connor's probably going to be sidelined this week. Marquise Brown hasn't put up those big numbers that we were expecting from him. And they're also running into the Rams defense. So I don't like that matchup. And he's at ranking number 6 this week. Quarterback number 6. And now my feel for quarterback, Carson Wentz. I'm feeling Carson Wentz for the second week in a row. So last week he finished quarterback 5, and I think he was ranked somewhere around 12 or 13 for the week. So heck yeah, we hit on that one right on the money. He had 4 touchdowns in week 1, 3 last week, 300 plus passing yards in each game. Both games were on the road too. So look for him to air it out again this week as they take on the Eagles, and it's the first home game, so that should bode pretty well for him. And then switching up to running back, my fade for this week is going to be Leonard Fournette, and he's coming in at number 8 this week for expert rankings. The Buccaneers do come into this week 2-0, so it's good news in that regard. But however, they're missing Mike Evans from a suspension. What a bad boy. Chris Godwin and Julio Jones are still injured. I just think there are too many pieces missing for this offense for Fournette not to get the attention of the defense. So, and I think Fournette's actually dealing with a hamstring injury. I think he's still expected to play, but you never like hearing
it's eternal. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got the forever
every week.
hamstring.
He's going to be on the injury report, whether he's playing or not. So. Okay, and then for feel at the running back position, I have James Robinson, and he comes in at rank 19 on Yahoo rankings. I really like James Robinson this year. I think he's back. He has the 6th most points for running backs right now in the first 2 weeks, and he's looking like the Robinson prior to his injury. Last week, he outtouched Travis Etienne 37-18. As long as those splits remain exact, I think we can expect another good week from Robinson this week. Any thoughts, Bog, on running back or quarterback picks I just made?
Yeah, I'm with you. Kyler scares me. He hasn't looked great other than like the final moments of that Vegas game. And Arizona's been underperforming offensively. So I get the like pumping the brakes, let's back off and kind of see it. You know, if you have him, you're probably starting him just because you have that upside. But I agree with you. And I love the Carson Wentz pick. Eagles have been putting up points. Washington's been putting up points. And I believe that's the game this week. I mean, it could be a high-scoring affair. Yeah, the Manders.
Represent.
Fournette, I'm not sure on. I agree with you. The defense should give him his attention, but Green Bay has been struggling against running backs, so that one could hit. But I like James Robinson too. Seems like he's back and he's the one. So I do really like that pick. Definitely higher than 19 in my eyes. But I think you got some good ones here. But let's not stop it. Where are we at with wide receivers?
And coming at wide receiver, we have fading DJ Moore. Less is more this week, as one might say. I'm fading him. Baker Mayfield has been bad so far this year. 380 yards, 2 TDs, and 1 rushing TD through his first 2 games. I don't think anybody had a high hopes right out the gate for him, but it's still frustrating to see these kind of numbers. Until some kind of chemistry and some kind of offense develops here where they're putting up some bigger numbers, that offense is just going to keep relying on McCaffrey if he's healthy. Maybe Hubbard, we'll see. But I think DJ Moore is going to be a low ceiling play for you at wide receiver this week. And then feels for the wide receiver position, I have chosen CeeDee Lamb. And now last week I actually was fading CeeDee Lamb, and that actually turned out to be the correct pick. But, I got to see Cooper Rush play his second start. I liked what I saw. I don't know what you guys thought, but I think he's got the skills that it's going to require to be a starting quarterback in the league. Whether he gets an opportunity for that this year after Dak gets healthy, we'll see. But I think you'll just continue to watch him develop this year and rely on his most talented wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. And I think it's going to be a high volume again this week with Dalton Schultz being out, Gallup still trying to get healthy. He might be back in. But I wouldn't let CeeDee Lamb go on my bench this week for sure. And then at tight end position, I have fading Kyle Pitts. He's coming in at rank 4 on Yahoo. And I think with Matt Ryan throwing the ball, it was a different Kyle Pitts. I think we got a totally different player when Marcus Mariota's throwing him the ball. I think the skills are there, don't get me wrong, but you're just never going to get that same aired out Matt Ryan, throw it up anywhere and go out and get it type of player. And so until we can see some drastic changes to how that offense is being built around its run game, and then where the wide receivers fall in, if it's going to be Drake London, we'll see. But I don't see a huge spike this week for Kyle Pitts. And my last pick for this week, I have Feeling Docs. Ooh, wow, Feeling Docs. I'm feeling Dawson Knox.
Easy.
Which is going to be Docs from now on, I guess. So go ahead and change that if you haven't given him a nickname yet. So last year he averaged 5 targets a game and was very touchdown dependent. But right now with Gabe being hurt, he's tied for second on the team with targets, and I don't think last week was a good example of the production he's going to have. I think that game was just a blowout. He got to play 3 quarters. But until Gabe Davis is back in, I expect more passes to be thrown his direction this week. So I think I'd feel pretty safe about putting him in my lineup. Phil, what do you feel about any of these picks I just announced?
Yeah, I think I like them all. I think DJ Moore is going to, have a hard year ahead of him. It may get better, but not yet. So, and CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Rush, he or maybe not hyper targeted.
No,
but he targeted Noah Brown a lot.
It wasn't a great volume to CeeDee Lamb this week, but I do think going forward, it's going to get stronger.
Right.
We saw that he can air it out with Noah Brown. So.
Right, I agree with that. Yeah, he looked pretty good. He did not look. I was not expecting him to look as good as he did. So yeah, I like CD as well. That Kyle Pitts fade. I don't like that.
Well, I know you have to start him, and that's
No
not
bias.
that's not what the fades and that's not what the fades and feels are. Because if he comes in and Kyle Pitts is ranked number 4 for this week, you're playing him. There's not a doubt. You have no better player to start other than unless you have Travis Kelce or I'm fading his name. The second, Mark Andrews. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that's the 1-2 every week. If not, they flip flop. But if you have Kyle Pitts on a team that doesn't have those two players, you're starting him. I'm just saying I'm not sold at him at the 4 spot. I could maybe take him at a 10 or less. Certainly not a 4. I'm not putting my stock in my week based on his performance.
Yeah, I think it's tough because all of the experts have to rank him high because of talent and ceiling. They have to rank him high. It has to happen. So sometimes he's going to be the number 1. These past 2 weeks have been 2-3 points, which is ridiculous. But I can't not play him. So, no, I do like that. I do like that pick. And then Dawson Knox, he looks good. I'm feeling him too, man. Good job.
Thank you, boys.
And guys, we got a little bit of a preview of what's going to be happening this week already. This Thursday night game has been rolling right along as we record, and there's been some scoring taking place. Phil, let's jump into it. Let's see what's going on and what we think is going to happen the rest of the week.
Yeah. Well, here's Ben, the fantasy football team, Ben versus Noe Gretz. Cole. It looks like Nick Chubb has put up a little bit of points here. He's got 55 yards, and Deontay Johnson already has 5 targets, 48 yards. So, I mean, that target count looking good for him. So, we'll see how that plays out as the game goes on. But to me, this looks kind of pretty close. James Conner, I think he picked up an injury. I don't know if is he set to play? But
I thought they said he would. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So we'll see if that injury lingers and affects his play. But Diggs putting up 1,000 points last week should scare Cole because I think that's going to happen on a week-to-week basis. And the Burrow Higgins stat can always hit here. So, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's looking like an amazing wide receiver too. So maybe he can keep up with Diggs there. It looks pretty even to me. I'll give the bump to Ben by a little bit, but not too much. Ben put up 150 points last week. That's got to scare you. So we'll see how it plays out.
I like it. And the next matchup here, we got a little run-in going between Nectar the Gods versus Kicking It with Kareem. And it looks like Najee is having himself a little bit of a game, doing okay. 10 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown already. And on the other side, Kareem Hunt, not quite so involved. So it's kind of leveling out between those two at this point in the Thursday night matchup for Jordan's team. But a lot still can change there. I think the big question here is he made the switch, you guys. He is sitting down Lamar Jackson, not going for the Lamar Jackson Mark Andrews stack, and is playing Jalen Hurts against Washington. Now, I like it. Jalen Hurts has looked fantastic, but we'll see. I know benching Lamar probably does not feel good, but playing Jalen Hurts also probably does feel good. So kind of a win-win there. Christian Kirk has been fantastic, and I actually think that's going to continue. And the emergence of Drake London has Jordan's team looking pretty strong. over on Tyler's side, we kind of talked about it before. It's a lot of injuries that are just. This isn't an overly deep team to start with, and then these injuries are kind of just like digging the knife in right at the start of the season here. With Russell Gage being questionable, don't know if he'll play. Alan Lazard popped up as questionable. I like to hope it's probably just a rest day working with the injury that he still had, but it's going to be tough sledding for Tyler again. I'd maybe try to find something to throw in between besides Valdez-Scantling and Paris Campbell. Those guys scare me, but it's kind of what he has to deal with Mike Evans and DeAndre Hopkins sitting on suspensions right now, which is just awful. So those suspensions from a couple bad boys are what I think is going to hold Tyler back this week. So I'm going to give the edge to Jordan.
Yeah, I agree. Couple of bad boys there.
And speaking of bad boys, we got your host, Smog, playing Joe's team. Who do you think you are? I am. So, as we've seen already this year and last year, there's a lot of talent on both these rosters. So, it's going to be a high-performing game for a lot of these players. Right off the top, for Joe's team, I'm liking Williams and San Fran. I think that's a fine matchup. Even Mike Williams, I don't know, is Allen. I think he said he was back, Keenan Allen back to practice today, if I remember right. But I'm still thinking he's going to have a good enough share of that offense. I'm not worried about that as long as Herbert comes out and plays healthy or close to healthy and puts up some good numbers. And then on the other side of the ball, you got Adams, you got Samuel, who are going to keep putting up 10, 15, 20 points. Just depends on the week, but I wouldn't expect that volume to go away this week. And Kelsey, as always, is just the only guy that really is going to get targeted as their primary. I mean, they just spread it around. What are the projections? I think it's like 125 or 127 each. Yeah. Gosh, I don't even feel right picking. I guess he does have the Pittsburgh defense, which Cleveland's putting up some points. Man, let's go ahead and we'll flip a coin on this one. I'm going to go ahead and say Joe's team picks up the win.
Okay.
I just think his wide receivers are gonna have some great opportunities in all those games, like Jacksonville's defense, Carolina's defense, Washington's defense. They're not gonna slow anybody down to the point where they're not gonna have. They're gonna. I would say at the low performing games for all those players is probably 7.5 points. So it's gonna be tough to get, a zero number from any of those unless they get out from an injury.
Yeah, it's a great analysis. You're wrong, but
challenge.
Yeah,
challenge. You're playing Curtis Samuel there, Nick.
For now, we'll see if Gabe Davis ends up being healthy. Starting to think Amari Cooper might be earning himself a spot back in the starting lineup. So.
I hope that my Curtis Samuel field pick last week was the influence for that start. So,
absolutely was.
Yeah,
for sure.
Obviously. What else we got?
Next up, we got Rando Guy Out East versus Are You Ready for Some Football? I just took a big L from Are You Ready for Some Football? So, the Tweetin versus Tweetin, very, very confusing. But it's happening. So. I think Justin Jefferson had an off day because Kirk Cousins plays on Monday night. That's the Kirk curse, right? So the Vikings, that stack didn't look good last week. I think they'll look great this week. Jamar Chase, obviously McCaffrey, he picked up a little bit of a questionable injury. Hopefully that's nothing, but I saw firsthand what this team can put up last week. I think they're going to be he's going to be 3-0. Unless Taylor and Barkley can do what they did week 1, the DJ Moore, Marquise Brown, CeeDee Lamb versus Chase and Jefferson, just those two, it's hard to beat. So, and then Freiermuth with a big goose egg. He is not Luth right now. So we'll see how the second half of this game plays out, but that does not look good for him. 0 targets. It doesn't look very good. So I'll give the edge to Are You Ready for some football?
In our last matchup of the week, we got 1-1's Wildlings taking on the Natural Born Kylers. Phil, got to be a little bit nervous sitting at 1 point right now. This should be a pretty even matchup between you two. You both have teams that can put up points. Saw it firsthand last week that the Natural Born Kylers have that explosiveness in them. We'll see what kind of work Tyreek and Jalen Waddle can do together again this week. But, man, Pat Mahomes, I'd like against Indy. And then, especially if Pittman is back, I think Kansas City's going to put up points. Pittman is really the only option in that Indy offense. So if he's back and if if Russell Wilson can start figuring out and Jerry Jeudy's healthy, I'm realizing you have a lot of questionable players. And I'm saying if a lot for your team right now, which is why I'm going to lean to the side of Ethan this week with those powerful receivers that he has, especially if Keenan Allen is back and healthy and ready to go. So this week, I'm leaning towards the Natural Born Kylers.
Well, I will prove you wrong, sir. Probably not, but very good analysis.
Too many ifs coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs. Yeah.
But that is the Week 3 preview, and that is the Week 3 show of the Bog and Smog Fantasy Cast. Thank you for joining us, guys. It is always a pleasure to talk some fantasy football with you guys. And this is Bog signing off. We'll talk to you all next week.